Knuckles Comic Issue 19. We start out seeing Day 1, showing this is going to be a multiple days arc story. And an airship being flown in a storm by Antoine and a guy I didn't recognize as Jeffrey on sight, probably because he was wearing a different outfit, shows up. Now, two things are weird. One, that these guys are in the Knuckles comic and out of focus in the main comic, not that I really care. And two, that Antoine isn't terrified while flying a plane in a lightning storm. Isn't he supposed to be the team coward? You'd think if anyone would be scared, it's him. But instead, he just looks depressed instead of fearing for his life. It turns out Antoine was flying Jeffrey and his elites to the floating island for the mission to save the Queen. And then he adds an arbitrary rule where they have 72 hours before the floating island moves out of range, just to be a dick. And if they miss the rendezvous, it'll be months before they can reunite with him. Because we all know that if the island moves just a little bit too far away, it'll take an eternity to bring the plane to them, rather than just a little bit longer. I mean, even in real life, you can fly all the way to Australia in just a day or two, and that's with merely modern technology. Movies has been shown to have advanced technology, and especially the echidnas. You're telling me the echidnas don't have any planes that could get them back there? I mean, the echidnas did all get rid of their cars, so... Valdez the Chameleon, or I guess it's Valde, but maybe that's just French. Valde the Chameleon points out that only one place on the island has snow, and this ain't it. And Wombat adds that the rain turned into snow way too quickly. Some sort of magical phenomena is going on. And Hershey hates the snow just because it's water. Hydrophobia doesn't go that far, does it? She should only be afraid of drowning. I mean, I know she's a cat, but still. This is pushing it past the point of believability. Heavy says that fortunately he was designed to be mobile in a wide range of environments, changing to having more appropriate legs for the snow trek after Bomb adorably goes into his pouch. Jeffrey says that they have to get their bearings first because they don't know how far off they landed from their target in the parachute landing. Valde says that they're near some of the Sandopolis ruins, and Jeffrey figures out that the royal compound must be to the left of them. Then we cut to Locke seeing camera footage of Jeffrey on the island. He's gonna be irrationally suspicious of him, isn't he? Saber shows concern for his workaholic son by saying he can take over for him if he'd like, which is good. And of course, Locke gets suspicious of Jeffrey, even though he knows they're members of the Acorn Kingdom's royal guard. But then I actually laughed at Saber's remark here. The commander is in exceptional health for a corpse, or else that's his son. He should have said either at the start and omitted the else though, then the sentence would have flowed more naturally. It's to the point where I read it that way at first. But yeah, he said that because the database revealed that Jeffrey's father had been killed in the line of duty. Then there's more of an explanation for why they're worried. If the Overlanders get wind of the Acorn Kingdom elites, they might believe that the echidnas had gone back on their word. And Locke says that perhaps it would be better if they did, and their fiery brethren may have been right about the echidnas becoming too isolationist. Especially since Knuckles doesn't concern himself only with echidna affairs. He says that Knuckles is probably the first guardian that's truly looked after everyone's well-being on the floating island. Well, that's probably because he was isolated from the city. So, one, he didn't have way too many people to look after the well-being of like every other guardian and could just focus on the other people. And two, he got to actually leave the island. It's not because Knuckles himself is great, it's the isolated way he was brought up. Then an emergency beacon happens from an airship, and Locke gets really irritated saying it's a she that he might have a few choice words for, as well as the constable, who gets called immediately. Then we see Julie Sue looking sympathetic as she shivers and complains that she's not used to this cold. I guess the Twilight Cage doesn't have winter. That's interesting. Just after he rarely suggests hanging out at his mom's apartment despite him storming off from it, they find a freezing cold woman who probably has hypothermia who's only able to talk about home and her baby. She would have gotten home just fine if the echidnas hadn't gotten a technology ban and limited vehicles to ambulances and the police, forcing her to walk home. That's the only explanation I can think of, since otherwise I'm wondering why she got to this point when she's surrounded by warm buildings she could shelter herself in. I feel sorry for her, but still. They agree to call an ambulance, and Knuckles goes to her home and finds her baby, who needs a diaper change the minute he goes up to her. Knuckles had a good point there. Why did she leave her baby home alone? Not a very responsible parent. Then Constable Remington tells Knuckles' stepdad that there's an emergency concerning Lara Lee. The hovercraft she was piloting was downed by the storm, and he thought that he'd want to accompany the rescue mission. Of course he does want to, because he cares about her that much, And then we cut to Jeffrey and his crew, and one of them wonders if all of Robotnik's pollution were what eventually ended up causing this bad weather. Unfortunately, Locke and Lyra's meeting doesn't start out well, as when Locke calls himself her husband by habit, she gets annoyed, reminding him that they aren't married anymore, and Locke calls her out on this with my full support. Here I am all concerned about you, and you're immediately on the defensive. Seriously, how can she even defend that? For all he knew, she was almost frozen to death in there. Why was she even piloting that plane and stuff anyways? I don't know what her career is, so I'm just wondering why she didn't stay at home. She complains that she wouldn't be in this mess if it weren't for him, with her arms crossed. And Locke has a relatable complaint that just once I'd like to have a conversation instead of starting with an argument. I like that. Reminds me of a couple I know. It's certainly relatable, so it has a charm to it. Meanwhile, we cut to Knuckles adorably holding a baby in his arms like he'd be a good father someday, while Julie cheerfully walks up to him with another pink echidna girl behind her, who says she'll take her. Then we see Knuckles, Julie, Constable, and Wine, or is it Wen, in the rescue mission hovercraft for Lara Lee. And Knuckles, after sympathetically worrying about her in a panic, is even more unhappy that nobody even knows where she is. The constable corrects his nobody knows nothing, like a grammar Nazi, and tells him that she was authorized the use of an agency shuttlecraft. It turns out she was on her way to the Forbidden Zone. And Knuckles is naturally pretty shocked and worried that she'd risk her life going to such a dangerous sounding place that I don't know what's wrong with it, and is stunned when he's told that she's going to meet his father. Then we cut to Saber talking to the guy with the cyborg eyes, who reveals himself to be Tober's imposter to the audience by thinking about his secret potentially being discovered, forcing him to take drastic actions quicker than he thought. I guess he's really paranoid and on edge about that happening, since he has no reason to jump to that conclusion from this. My question is, why didn't he take drastic actions a long time ago? What's the point of infiltrating the Echidna Guardian family for evil purposes if you're not going to do anything evil that whole time? He might as well have been a good guy like the rest of them the whole time. That's a bad thing. I still don't really understand why Tober and him went blind though. What about being crushed in rubble would do that? We then see Jeffrey finding the royal compound, recognizing it because he went there with his father once when he was a kid years ago. Notice how he didn't say decades ago, or many years ago, or several years ago. He can't be that old then. They break into an old couple's house, fortunately not being caused any trouble for it, and Jeffrey explains what he's doing on the island. He says that since the Queen had been sent to the island, the royal compound seemed like the most logical place to start. And then Prince Ilias shows up in a cliffhanger saying, "Did someone mention my mother?" Dun dun dun! Why is Jeffrey even saying this and reacting this way? Is this just a very quick gut reaction before he recognizes someone he should already know really well? I mean, I assume so. Jeffrey's worked in the castle for a long time. You'd think that he would be familiar with the king's son. I think this will be explained. This story was written by Ken Penders, and as usual, it was an engaging adventure, but it's a shame that it had to end when it did. Jeffrey and his team only started making progress right at the end of the story. Before that, they were just doing nothing but walking through the snow in a blizzard that's only given a very brief, assumed explanation. And Lyra's talk with Locke just starts with a typical argument. It doesn't progress to the actual talk yet. It was nice to see Knuckles having a soft side of looking after a baby well and helping its mother, though I really have to wonder why she got to this point. Really, this is more of a story leading into another one where things really pick up.